Hey, what's up everybody? Clifton here with CliftonWP. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to learn how to create bento box style grid layouts in Kadence. We're going to be utilizing Kadence blocks, and we're going to be focusing on the row layout block and the section block from Kadence blocks. Now, if you're not familiar with bento box style grid layouts, they're actually very popular this year, and they're being used on several different awesome websites to create some very interesting layouts, and you're going to learn how to be able to do the same thing. Here's some examples of some bento box layouts. If you look at this website over here, you can kind of see how they've organized their content, and this is known as a bento box style grid. It actually gets its name from the very popular Japanese style bento box or Japanese lunch box, where you have different sections and different grids, and they're kind of misaligned. Okay, you can also see another good example of it here on this website, and notice how each container has different types of content, and each box is of a different size, either going across or going downwards vertically. A good place to be able to see some good examples of some bento box style grids is if you go to bentogrids.com. You'll see a bunch of different UIs or different user interfaces that have great examples of bento box layouts. So here's a bento box grid that's actually quite complex and has several boxes that are being used for different types of content. And you can also find some very simple looking ones as well. No matter how difficult or how complex any of these look, the important thing to keep in mind is that every single one of these can be recreated in Kadence, or you can also build your own from scratch. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you how to do. I want to teach you how to be able to build your own bento box style grid layouts from scratch. So if you guys are ready to learn how to create bento box style grid layouts in Kadence, then let's go ahead and jump right into it. Here we are with a fresh install of WordPress, and what you're looking at here is the default 2024 theme that comes with WordPress when you first install it. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and install the Kadence theme, and we're also going to install the Kadence Blocks plugin, both of which are free from the WordPress repository. To do that, let's go ahead and navigate to the dashboard, and from here we're going to go to Appearance, go to Themes, click on Add New Theme, and you're going to do a search for Kadence, and you'll see the free Kadence theme right here. Go ahead and click on Install and Activate. Alright, so now our theme is installed. Next, we're going to go ahead and install our Kadence Blocks plugin, which will allow us to create our layouts and our pages for our website. So we're going to go to Plugins, click on Add New Plugin, and then in the search bar here, we're going to do a search for Kadence Blocks. You'll see the Kadence Blocks plugin here. Go ahead and click on Install Now and Activate. Okay, so now we have the Kadence Blocks plugin installed. If we visit the front end of the website, you will now see the Kadence theme. And then if we actually visit a post or a page in here, we can go to the block inserter, and we will see our Kadence blocks ready for us to go ahead and start building out our layouts. Next, let's go ahead and create a page and start building out our bento box grid layouts. Okay, so to create a page, I'm going to go over here to the WP admin toolbar. I'm going to click on New, or hover over the New here and click on Page. That's going to take me to the page editing interface. I'm going to go ahead and give my page a title, so we'll call this the Bento Box Grids Layout page. And then I'm going to move over to the right and select the page settings for this page, and I'm going to set up a few settings here. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and disable the page title, and then for the page layout, I would like a full width layout. That's going to give me full access to the full width of the page. And then for the content style, I want this to be unboxed, and for content vertical spacing, we're going to go ahead and disable that. Okay, this way we don't have any padding or spacing on our page. And then everything else I'm going to leave as is. I don't think we'll need a header for this one, so I'm going to go ahead and disable the header. That way I just have the full page itself. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And when we view the page, we should just see a blank page, which is perfect. Okay, next I want to make this the home page so that every time we go to the dashboard and come back to the website, we'll always see the page that we're working on. So to do that, I'm going to navigate back to the dashboard, And then we're going to go to settings and we're going to go to reading. And then under the Your Home Displays section here, I'm going to change this option to a static page. And then we're going to select a home page, and it's going to be our Bento Box Grid Layouts page. And then I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now when I visit the front end of the website at any time, it's always going to bring me to the page that we're working on. Now we're ready to build our first Bento Box Grid layout. Okay, so to get started, let's go ahead and edit this page. We're going to click on Edit Page here in the WP Admin toolbar. That will take us to the page editing interface. And then from here, we're going to be able to add our blocks that will help us build out our Bento Box Grid layouts. There are two blocks that we're going to use to build this out. The first one is going to be the row layout block, and the second one is going to be the section block. Both of these blocks are container blocks within the Kadence Blocks suite. So if you click on the block inserter, you'll see that the row layout and the section block are the first two blocks that you'll see in the Kadence Blocks collection. Now, the row layout blocks and section blocks are container blocks in the sense that they can contain other blocks. They can also contain iterations of themselves. So that means that a row layout can contain more row layouts and also other section blocks. And the section block can also contain other section blocks and even contain a row layout. So these are very powerful blocks, and they're essential in creating the layouts for your pages. But they are different. Even though they're both container blocks and can contain different blocks, the way they treat those blocks within them is very different. So let's just quickly go over that so we have a full understanding, and that way it's going to lead our strategy in terms of how we build out our Bento Box Grid layouts. Let's start with the row layout block. When you add a row layout block to your page, the row layout block's primary capability is to organize your content in a grid. Okay, so it uses columns and rows to organize content. When you first add it to the page, it's going to ask you to select the layout, and you'll notice that these layouts are what we call single row grids. So even if it's one column, it's still just a single row grid. When you select the row layout and you want to add another section, you can add a section inline where it's just creates another column, or you can keep the one column and then add a section right below. If you want to add a section right below this section that's created here, so if we open this up in list view, you'll see the row layout and you'll see that one section, right? And the row layout has its own settings over here, and the section within it also has its own settings as well. Okay, so row layouts use sections to organize its column containers. So in this case, when we're saying we have one column, what we're really saying is we have one section. Now, if I wanted to add another section, but I wanted to add it as a grid versus adding it in line, then you can select that row layout. And in the short menu here, there is a plus sign with a circle, and it says add another section. If you click on this, it will add a section directly below. So it starts a second row here, and it'll add another section directly below that first section. So when we look at this in list view, you'll see now that you have two sections. Okay, let's go ahead and delete that section. Okay, all right. The other way to be able to add a section as well, and if you want to add it as a column or add it inline in the grid, is select the row, move over to the right hand side. Under the layout options, you'll see the columns and a number of columns. If you click on the right arrow here, you will increase the number of columns that are within that row. Okay, so if you select the row and we take a look at this in list view, if we open up this row, you'll see again that we now have two columns, except now the columns are in line. Also, when you increase the number of columns, you also open up layout options for those columns. So for instance, this 2-column row now has 4 layout options. You can have it equal columns, or you can have a column where the left hand side is wider than the right hand column, or you can have that flipped where the right column is wider than the left column, or you can just have it be collapsed where they're stacked on top of each other. Okay, so no matter what you select in terms of the layout, you can still add another row of sections to this. So let's say, for instance, I have it at equal widths, 2 columns. If I go back here to my short menu and I click on the plus sign with a circle here that says add another section, it's going to add a section directly below. It's going to start a new row but it's not a new row layout. It's just another section within the first row. So if I open this up in list view, I'm going to see 3 sections now, right? And if I select the row again and click to add another section from the short menu there, it's now going to have 4 sections, but it's going to organize it in a 2-column and 2-row format. It always iterates whatever's on the very top if you use the add a section component. Now what's great about this is now you have sections and you can actually move these sections around within the row. So for instance, if I open this up here and I select that last section, right? If I want to move it over before the 3rd section here, I would just click this arrow and then it moves around just like that. Okay, so you can move these around. You can also move them around in here as well, right? You can add them inside of each other, add them back to the top. So this is a very, very versatile container block. So one of the things to note here is that when you have a row like this, and let's say you have 3 columns, you now have more layout options. 4 columns, you have some layout options as well, and different layout options depending on how many columns you have. But let's go to the 3-column row here. When you select that you have 3 columns inside of one row, then you have up to 9 different layout options. Okay, the top row of options here are all in line, meaning that the rows are all in line with each other. They're not stacked on top of each other. And then you just have different widths for the first and the last column. So this second layout here allows you to have a wide width column all the way to the left, to the first column. And the 3rd layout option here lets you have a wide width column all the way to the right. Okay, the middle layouts here all expand the middle column, so you're going to have a wider width column here on the 4th layout. On the 5th one, it gets even wider, and on the 6th one, it's at the widest. Okay, and then the 3rd row of layouts here are where the layouts start to stack on top of each other. So this 7th layout here allows you to have the first column be a full width 100% column, and then the 2 columns below it, or the 2 sections below it, are occupying about 50% of the space. The 8th layout flips that around, so it places the full width section all the way at the bottom, and then it adds 2 columns or two sections on the top at 50%. And then the last layout, or the 9th layout, just stacks them all on top of each other, where every section is basically a full width section. So any one of these bottom ones here would allow you to build out a bento box layout. Matter of fact, layout number 7 and 8 are probably your best bets for building out a bento box layout grid. Okay. All right. The other thing that I also want to point out before we move on to the section block is that if you open up the list view here in the row layout, and let's go ahead and just set this back to a 3-column layout, and we'll make this 1 column like we started from in the beginning. Every row that you add will always have at least 1 section in it. And that section is a full-blown, full setting section. So it can have its own settings, and it can also handle the contents of it like a section, like the section would with the section settings. Okay. So the row layouts have their own settings, and it's its own container, but it contains sections which then contain content. So next, now let's talk about the section block. Because if you notice, the row layout already comes with a section block, but you also have the ability to have a section block on the page by itself without a row layout container. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this row, and now let's add the section block. Okay, so I'm going to open up the block inserter, and I'm going to add the section block. When you add the section block, you only get the section block. If we open this up in list view, there are no other blocks. It doesn't contain anything until you put something in it. Now, while the row layout's primary capability was organizing content in grids, the section container's primary capability is being able to organize content directionally. So you can choose what direction the content you place inside of a section flows. Okay, that's the primary difference here. And the CSS methodology that it's using to do that is called flexbox. So when you add a section, when you look over to the settings, you actually get here flex settings. Okay. Whereas if you remember in the row layout, you had layout settings. In a section, you have flex settings, and you can choose the direction of flow for the content within that section. So let me give you a good example. So here we have our section, and let's say I click on the plus sign here, and let's go ahead and add an info box. Okay, so now we have an info box inside of our section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this info box and I'm going to duplicate it 3 times. So I'm going to click on the vertical ellipsis and click duplicate, and then I'm going to do it again. Okay, so if I look at this in list view, I'm going to see a section and 3 info boxes, and the info boxes are stacked vertically, meaning that every time I add an info box, it stacks it directly underneath the other info box and it fills up the space. Okay, if I open up the section here and I look here to the flex settings, you can see the directional arrow here that's saying that anything you add here is going to flow in a vertical direction. Okay, so now what happens if you change the direction? So we can now change this to a horizontal direction. And when you do that, then what it attempts to do is it attempts to stack all the elements inside of it in line with each other, flowing in a horizontal direction. Okay, so let's go ahead and select that. So I'm going to select this arrow, and if you notice, all of the elements, okay, are now floated here to the left, but they're not floating in line with each other. Okay, and that's because we haven't set up, or we haven't told it what the width of these elements should be. So what it's really doing is it's wrapping the elements around. So there's not enough room here. It's not enough space inside of the section with our in our interface for it to actually flow the items in line properly. Okay. Now, if I close this out, now you notice that it now aligns in line, right? But it ran out of space here. And because it ran out of space, it floated the next info box to the next line. Okay. So how do we deal with that? Well, one thing that's amazing about the section block is because it uses flex settings. The moment you select that you want everything to go in a horizontal direction, then it creates a new option for you called flex basis. And it's down here. What flex basis does is it basically tells the section that each element in it has a minimum width, or a width that it can occupy, and you determine that width over here. So you can do it in pixels or you can do it in percentages. Okay, so let's say I wanted to do this in pixels. I'm just going to leave it as pixels, and I said that the flex basis for each element inside of this section is going to be 100 pixels. When I do that, then that means that each item in here will have a width of 100 pixels. So let's go ahead and just type in 100. Okay, so now you see how everything is now 100 pixels and everything is now in line. Okay, this only applies when the direction is going horizontal. Okay, now let's change this to percentage. So now that it's in percentages, I can even have more flexibility. So I can say, I want every item in here to be at least 30%. And by doing that, everything now is floated in line. Okay. And now with the flex settings, I can now organize this content however way that I want. So I've got the direction going here, right? I can also set up the alignment. So I can say I want everything floated to the left or to the start. So that's what it is by default. I can say I want it all aligned in the center. I can say I want it all floated to the right. Okay. I can say that I want everything to have spacing between. So spacing between means that it's going to be flush to the left, flush to the right, and then it's going to create equal spacing in between. Okay. I can also say that I just want space around. Now, when that happens, it's going to create some spacing around each element, including spacing on the edges. And then I can also say just space everything evenly. So now everything is spaced evenly. So you can see how these flex settings can allow you to organize content within a section. This is going to be very, very important when you're building out your bento box. Okay. Now, one other thing that the sections also have, one other flex setting that they have, which was recently added by the folks at Kadence, is if you go to the advanced settings, under structure settings, there is a flex grow setting. Okay. The flex grow setting basically allows the elements inside of the section to grow according to the height or according to the direction of that section. And we'll take a look at that when we start building out our bento boxes. Okay. So now with that overview of the differences between the row layout and container and the section container. Let's go ahead and now build out a bento box using the knowledge that we have about how each container functions. Starting with a fresh canvas, let's go ahead and click on the block inserter, which is the plus sign with the blue background here. When you click on that, we're going to select the row layout. So the row layout is going to serve as our main parent container for our Bento Box Grid Layout. So I'm going to select the row layout, and I want only one column. Okay, so that means if I open this up in list view, I'm going to have a row layout, and if we open that up, we have a default section already in place. Now, this is probably the only time we're going to utilize the row layout because we really want the row layout to serve as a container, providing us the general grid format. But for the internal containers that's going to make up the Bento Box Layout grid, we want to use independent sections for that because we want to benefit from the flexbox layout capabilities of the sections, which the row layouts do not have. Okay, so now that we have our row layout here, we have our section here. Let's go ahead and just rename this so that we can follow along with our structure. So I'm going to click on the vertical ellipsis. You can do that here in the list view, or you can do it from here in the short menu and select rename for the row layout. And we're going to call this our parent container row. Let's save that. So that's going to change the name here. And then we're also going to relabel the section that comes with this row layout. So I'm going to click on the vertical ellipsis again, select rename, and we're going to call this parent container section, and then we'll save that. Okay, so now we have a parent container row and we have a parent container section. Next, we're going to add another section inside of this parent container section. To do that, just click on the plus sign in the parent container row here, and we're going to add an independent section. When you do that, you'll see it here. So this section, we're going to call this our child container section. So let's go ahead and click on the vertical ellipsis and we'll rename it child container section. And then let's save that. Now remember, we're creating a wireframe Bento Box Grid layout and we're not really using any reference. So we're just building this from scratch. And what I want to do is I want to create what I call a mirrored Bento Box Grid layout. It's basically where you have a Bento Box layout on the left, and then you have a mirrored reverse version on the right. Okay, so to do that, that means we need a left column and we'll need a right column. Now, I know there will be a temptation to click on the plus sign here and go ahead and add a row layout, and then you could just select a 2-column layout like this. Okay, now, yes, this does give you 2 sections inside of a row layout, but the challenge here is that you automatically lose the flexbox capabilities because of this row layout. The sections inside will have flexbox capabilities, but in the event that you add more content inside of these sections and the content is misaligned, meaning you have more content in one or varying content in another, you run the risk of breaking the Bento Box Layout grid because of that row layout grid capabilities. So to solve that, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're able to have these 2 columns, but without the row layout. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete that row layout. I just added that to show you that as an example. So we now have our child container section. And what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 sections to this child container section. So click on the plus sign and we're going to select section. And then from this section, this is going to be our left section. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the vertical ellipsis here, click on rename, and we will call this our left child container section. And let's save that. And then we're going to duplicate this one. So click on the vertical ellipsis again, select duplicate. That way the section remains underneath the main child container section. Okay, so we're going to come over here and we're going to change the name here. Click on the vertical ellipsis, rename, and we'll call this right child container section. And just to help us with our labeling here, I'm going to go back to the child container section. I'm going to click on the vertical ellipsis here, click on rename, and let's just call this main child container section, since these are children of the main child here, and save. Okay, so notice that when we did that here, notice that here in the editor, you can now see these 2 sections are stacked on top of each other. We're inside of a section here. And so over here on the right, you can see that the direction of this section, the flexbox direction, is going vertical. So what we want to do to be able to align these side by side is to go ahead and change the direction to be horizontal. And to do that, just go ahead and click on the horizontal direction arrow here. And what that will do is it will align these left and right child container sections side by side or in line with each other. And now technically we have what looks like a 2-column row, except it's built with a main child container section. So next, let's add the content section containers that are actually going to make out the structural layout of the Bento Box Grid. And we'll do one for each column here. So I'm going to click in the left child container section here. And then from within this section, I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to add a section. And just so that I can see this section, I'm going to move over to the right, go to style, and I'm going to add a background color to that section. Okay, and let's just add a subtle background. Okay, so it's nice and blue. And then I also want to rename this, okay, because now this is where our content is going to go into. So I'm going to click on the vertical ellipses next to the section here, and we'll go to rename, and we'll call this one our content container top. Or let's also add the word section to it so that we know that it's a section block. Okay, so content container top section. And then we'll go ahead and save this. Okay, so now we've taken care of our content container for the top. Now we want 2 additional sections below this one to start giving us that Bento Box Grid feel. Okay, so that means we're going to need 2 additional sections side by side. But in this case, because we're not using row layouts, we're going to need a parent section container that's going to hold those 2 side by side containers. So to speed this up, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just duplicate this content container top. So we will duplicate this one, and let's go ahead and rename this content container bottom section. So now we have a content container top section, and then we also have a content container bottom section. And then within this bottom section here, I would like to have 2 content containers that are side by side. Okay, so to do that, we're going to click on the plus sign here, and we're going to add a section. And then right below this section, we're going to add another section. So just click on the vertical ellipsis, click on add after, and we can go ahead and do a section here. Another way we could have done that, let me go ahead and delete this. Another very simple way is just click on the vertical ellipsis here, and then click on duplicate, and you would have another section right here. Okay, so just so we follow here, we have the content top section that's spanning all the way across. Then we have a content container bottom section that now contains 2 additional sections. And then we want these sections to be side by side. Okay, so to be able to do that, let's go ahead and select the content container bottom section. We're going to move over to the right, and we're going to activate our flexbox layout settings by forcing the direction to be horizontal instead of vertical. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the horizontal direction. That's going to give me 2 sections below here. And now I no longer need that background for that content container bottom here. Okay, so I'm going to select that content container bottom section, and I'm now going to go to style, and I'm going to remove the background, and then I'm going to apply backgrounds to the 2 sections that are now side by side within the content container bottom section. So I'm going to select the first section here, move over to the right, go to style, and we will add the subtle background color here. And then I will go to the section again, move over to the right, go to style, and apply the subtle background again. Okay, so now we can see that our Bento box layout, at least the left side, is now created. Okay, so now let's just do a couple of things just to clean this up, and also set up what we're going to be using for the right side here. Okay, so I'm going to select the content top section here. I'm going to move over to the right, go to advanced, and I want to add a little bit of padding because when we add content to this, I don't want the content touching the sides of the section. So we're going to give this just a small padding. It's about 24 pixels. Okay, and that looks good. Then what I'm going to do is, while I still have that content container top section selected, I'm going to click on the copy paste styles in the short menu, and I'm going to select copy styles. Then I'm going to skip the content container bottom, and I'm going to go to the sections within it. Okay, I'm going to select the first section, and then I'm going to click on the copy paste styles icon in the short menu, and I'm going to click on paste styles. Okay, and then I will repeat that for the second section. Okay, so now all this looks really good. It's really coming together. Now we need to be able to implement a gap between the content top section and the content container bottom section. And to do that, I'm going to go to its parent section, which is the left child container section here. So we can see that here. I'm going to select that, move over to the right, and here we'll see that we now have a vertical gap option. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add a gap, and I can say, let's do a small gap and see how that looks. And that looks great. So now our left side of the Bento Box Grid layout is created. We haven't added any content to it yet, but we can visually see what it looks like. So the wireframe component portion of it is now done. Now we want to do the same thing on the right side, but we want to do it in reverse. Okay, so to be able to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select the left child container section again. Okay, and now I have that section selected, and what I want to do here now is I'm just going to copy the two sections within it. Okay, so here's the left child container section. I'm going to select the content container top section. I'm going to hold down my shift key, and I'm going to select the content container bottom section. Okay, now I have both sections selected. Then I'm now going to click on the vertical ellipsis in the short menu here, and I'm going to select copy. Okay, so now this is copied to the clipboard. Now we're going to go and select the right child container section, which has nothing under it now, right? So it's completely empty. I'm going to click on the plus sign within that section, and then I'm going to add a paragraph block. And then on my keyboard, I'm going to press Command V, and if you're on a PC, that will be Control V. Once you do that, now we have an exact duplicate of what we had in the left, or what we have in the left. Okay. Now I'm going to select the right child container section, move over here to the right, and then apply my vertical gap. Okay. And so now we have our two Bento Box layouts. Now they look exactly identical. So to give it that more misaligned Bento Box feel, what we're going to do is we're just going to swap the content container bottom here. So if you select this one here, we're just going to swap it to the top. Okay, and it's very easy to do. So just click on the content container bottom in the right child container section. And here in the short menu, you'll see these navigation arrows. And just go ahead and click it one time. All right, and now you can see that we have the Bento Box Grid layout wireframe fully completed. All our content sections are ready. And now we can go ahead and start adding content to it. Our content can be anything that we like. So it can be images, text, or videos, or any kind of block that you want in any of these containers. But for the sake of this tutorial, since this is just a wireframe and we're just creating something that we can visually see, let's just go ahead and add the same amount of content and the same kind of content, and then we can adjust for it a little bit later in the video. Okay, so I'm going to click here in the first section here on the left. I'm going to click on the plus sign, and let's add an icon container. And then right after this icon container, we're going to add a title. So just select the icon and then click on the vertical ellipsis here. Click on add after. That'll give us a new block line. And then you can do a / and start searching for the word text, or start typing the word text, and you'll see the Kadence text block. Go ahead and click on that. Let's go ahead and just center that block, and we'll just call this our title. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to hit the enter key. It'll give me a new block line, and I'll do / again. I'm going to select the text block from Kadence. Let's go ahead and center it, and let's go ahead and add some lorem ipsum text here. Now, this text is designated as an H2, so let's go ahead and just select the H2 here, and we'll change it to a paragraph. So it's just a paragraph, a title, and an icon. And then I'm just going to reduce the spacing between the title and the icon here. So I'm going to select the title, move over to the right to the text block settings, go under advanced, and here there's some default margin, so I can just zero this out and then add the margin that I want, which will be about extra small. And now we have a little bit more balance here. in our text. Okay, so this will be the extent of the content that we'll add just to get started for the wireframe of the Bento Box layout. Now what we want to do is go ahead and add the same amount of text or the same content elements to all the other sections. So I'm going to select the icon. I'm going to hold down my shift key and I'm going to select the last text block. That's going to select all the content within the section. It's going to attempt to place it into a group. But what we really want here is we just want to copy it the way that it is. So I'm going to click on the vertical ellipsis here, click on copy, and then I'm going to go to the next section here, click on the plus sign, select the paragraph block, and then I'm going to press Command V or Control V if you're using a PC, and that will paste that content into that section. And now I'm going to repeat it for all the other sections. Okay, so now all our content has been added to all of these sections. So now we can kind of see how this is starting to look more and more like a really nice Bento Box layout. Okay, if we close this list view here in the interface, you can kind of see how it adapts to the width of the page. Let's close out this part of it. You can see here, everything is adapting really nicely, at least horizontally. Okay, so now what happens if we add more content to one of these sections than the other? Okay, so let's see if our layout will still maintain its adoption. Also, remember we had that main row layout container. So if we open up our list view, remember this parent container row here? So one of the things you can do with a container row, right now it's set to its default width. It doesn't have an actual alignment width. But let's say, for instance, that I wanted this to actually be more centered to the middle and to adopt the inner content width of the theme, which is about 1290 pixels. Okay, so I can actually set that up here. Select the inner content width icon here. And let's say we want to use the theme content inner width. So notice that when we do that, it now centers our Bento Box nicely here. So whether you're doing a wide width or a full width, we can also do a full width and just remove the inner layout here. It still maintains all its aspect ratios very nicely. But what happens in the event that we add more content to one of these sections than is available in its counterpart section? Okay, so to do that, let me just go ahead and set this to be in the center so we can just see everything all at once. Okay, so here is let's look at this one as an example. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the settings here. Okay, so let's say I'm going to add more text here. Okay, so because typically you may have an image here or a picture or a video, and it may not be the same size as your text. Okay, so what we want to do is just test and see how this will respond. So I'm going to place my cursor next to the last word here, or next to the period there, and I'm just going to add some more text. Okay, and let's add some more and some more. Okay, so notice how with more content, our Bento Box layout appears broken, or it at least appears not to be aligned anymore. And what we really want this design to do is we want everything to always be matched. We want all the sections to always adjust. We don't want this to happen. Now, there may be some use cases where you may want your layout to look like this. It's entirely up to you. It doesn't actually look bad at all. So this may be something that you do want. But if you don't want this, if you want it to always be aligned, at least on the edges, then you'll finally see why it was a great idea for us to utilize sections to build this out rather than utilizing the row layout throughout. Because now we get to apply those flexbox layout settings to be able to adjust this however way we want. Okay, so let me show you how this works. So to make sure that our Bento Box Grid Layouts containers within the layout always extend to the full height of the full Bento Box Grid, so it always looks complete and like a square and there are no extra gaps, we're going to go ahead and activate the flexbox layout settings within these sections. Specifically, we're going to be targeting a setting in your section blocks called Flex Grow. So let's go ahead and do it right now. So we're going to go ahead and open this up in list view so we can see all of our containers. And I'm going to open up each container here so we can see everything. Okay, just make sure that everything is open. And that way we have access to everything. Okay, great. Matter of fact, we can actually close the ones that have the content in there. We don't need to see the content. We just need to see the sections. Okay, so now we can see all the sections that are available. Okay, and we're just going to go from the top and go straight down to the bottom. So let's start with the first one that we need to make a change to, and that's going to be the main child container. So the main child container section, if you remember, this is the section that contains all of the other sections. Okay, so it's the one column after the main parent container section. So, and it's only one section. Okay, so we're going to select that main child container section. Inside of it is going to be the left child container section and the right child container section. So what we want to do here is we want to apply a flex setting called stretch to it. Okay, so over here on the right hand side, under the general flex settings here, you're going to see something called vertical alignment. You've got a top alignment, you have middle alignment, you have bottom, and then we have this one called stretch. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the sections inside of it and it's going to attempt to stretch it to the full height of the section. Okay, so let's go ahead and select stretch. Okay, so you can see that moving up here to the top, and then now it gives us an opportunity to be able to add some flex grow settings to the sections within it. Okay, so let's go ahead and select the first section right after. This is going to be the left child container section. Let's go ahead and select that, move over to the right. Under advanced, we're going to open up structure settings, and under the structure settings you're going to see this setting called flex grow. So flex grow is going to allow that section to go ahead and extend to fill out any additional spacing. Okay, so we're going to apply a flex grow setting here of 1. Next, we're going to go ahead and select the very next container here, which is going to be the content container top. The content container top, this is the one that is containing the actual content here, and it stretches full width across the column here. So we're going to go ahead and select that one, move over to the right, go to advanced, structure settings, and we're going to set the flex grow setting here and give it a value of 1. Okay, so you see now how it now extends to fill out any additional space. And if you wanted to stop here, you could, but we want to make sure that everything's pretty uniform. So no matter where you're placing your content, everything is adjusting responsively. Okay, let's keep going. The next container is going to be the content container bottom. So the content container bottom contains the 2 sections that are side by side inside of that column. So we're going to go ahead and select the content container bottom. I'm going to move over to the right, and because this one has additional sections inside of it, I also want to set a stretch value for the vertical alignment as well. So we're going to go ahead and set the stretch value here, and then I'm also going to go to advanced structure settings, and I'm also going to give it a flex grow value of 1. Okay, so you can now see how it's getting ready to allow us to set up the other sections to be able to stretch to the full height of that section. So I'm going to select the next section, move over to the right, go to advanced structure settings, and add a flex grow value of 1. And then I'm going to repeat that for the second section. Advanced structure settings, flex grow setting of 1. Okay, so now we have completed the full flexbox layout setup for the content here on the left hand side. Now we're going to move over to the right hand side and repeat the same process. Okay, and just so that we can see it visually happening, I'm going to go ahead and take all of this content here. Let's remove it. Okay, so now we're kind of back to normal again, and I'm going to add it to this content section here. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and stretch it, and that way we can see the gap here. Okay, so from here I'm going to select my right child container section. I'm going to move over to the right, go to advanced structure settings, add a flex grow value of 1. Okay, next I'm going to select my content container bottom for this one, which is on top, because remember this is reversed. I'm going to move over to the right. First I'm going to set the vertical alignment to stretch. Then I'm going to go to advanced structure settings, set the flex grow value to 1. Okay, then I'm going to select each section and change the flex grow value. So go to advanced structure settings, flex grow value 1. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the second one. Advanced structure settings, flex grow value 1. Okay, so now this is all nice and stretched. then I'm just going to keep moving. Okay, so the next one that we need to change is going to be this section right over here. Okay, so this section is the content container top for the right side. Okay, even though it's on the bottom, but remember we're doing a mirror Bento Box Grid layout here. Okay, so I'm going to select it here, or you can select it from the list view here. Move over to the right, go to Advanced, Structure Settings, Flex Grow, add a value of 1. Okay, so now both of them are mirroring the same flexbox behavior. So no matter how much content we add to any one of these containers, it will continue to adjust accordingly. Or if we remove any content, it will adjust accordingly, and it will continue to retain this aspect ratio. Okay, so now we have a fully functioning, very responsive Bento Box Grid layout. Okay, now there's one more thing that we need to do, and that is that we need to make sure that this looks good on mobile devices. So on your tablets and your cell phones, we want to make sure that everything operates correctly on mobile devices as well. Let's shift over into responsive editing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up in list view again. I'm going to select the parent container row, and then I'm going to close the list view so I can have more space. Okay, and then I want to be able to preview this on the tablet. There's a number of ways to be able to do that. I can just come over here to the settings on the row layout, and I can select the tablet view from here by clicking on this icon. Or I can also preview it here by clicking on the view icons here on the preview, and I can just select tablet. Okay, so show me the tablet layout, and it'll automatically select the tablet icon here, letting me know that I'm viewing this on a tablet. Okay, so now looking at it on tablet, I can see that there's a lot of smushing going on, and this probably doesn't look the best here. Okay, so what we'll want to do is we'll want to set this up so that it looks better on tablet. Okay, so to do that, let's go ahead and open up list view. Okay, I'm going to open up everything again, and I just really want to see all of the sections. So we have our parent container row, we have our parent container section, which is only one column, and then we have the main child container section here as well. Let's go ahead and select that. You can see over here on the settings for the main child container section, and what it's doing is it's that the direction is actually going horizontal. That's why it looks like this. So if I go back to my desktop view, I can see here that, oh, the direction is horizontal. So on tablet, I don't want the direction to be horizontal. What I want is I want the direction to be vertical. So I'm going to go ahead and select the vertical direction. Okay, and when you do that, then everything here lines up nicely. But we're also missing some gap. Okay, so everything is sort of connecting here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a vertical gap. Okay, so back over here on the right hand side in the settings, make sure you still have the main child container section selected. Go ahead and add a small gap. Okay, so we see here now there's a gap between our two columns here. Okay, and just like that, in 2 clicks, our tablet view looks awesome. Now let's move over to our cell phones or mobile devices as well. So I'm going to move over here to this icon here. I'm going to change the view, and we're going to look at it on a mobile device. Okay, so on our mobile device here, it looks like there's still some smushing going on. So this isn't presenting very well. So it would just make more sense for everything to be laid out in a nice vertical format. Okay, so let's go ahead and select the items that are too narrow for the viewport here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the, it looks like let's select one of these sections here. When you select one of these sections, you can then look over here to the left to list view, and you can see what area is controlling this. So this section right here is inside of the content container bottom section. So I want to select the content container bottom because that's what's containing these 2 sections here. Now that I have that, I'm going to move over here to the left, and what I want to do is I'm going to change the direction because I know that in desktop view, the direction is going horizontal. So now I'm going to change it to vertical when you're looking at it on a mobile device. So let's go ahead and select the vertical direction flex setting here. Excellent, that looks great. And then the other thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a gap here. So I'm going to add a vertical gap, and now we have a nice gap there. Okay, now let's keep scrolling down. I can see here, this is our right side, right, of the column, which is now stacked at the bottom. So let's go ahead and click on the content container here, and that's what's containing these 2 sections. So the content container bottom. And if you're ever in doubt, you can just click here in the very corner, and it'll tell you where that section is. And then I want the container that's containing it. So I'm going to select the content container bottom here, move over to the right, change the direction to be vertical. And then I'm going to add a gap right there. Okay, so now on our mobile device here, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and switch back to our desktop. So you can do that by clicking on this icon here in the flex settings, or I can come here to the view and select desktop. And now we're back at desktop again. Okay, and let's go ahead and close the list view. And we can see that our bento box is now in place. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this extra text here. And let's just make sure that everything is conforming well. Okay, so this looks good. Here centered in the middle. Go ahead and save your work and let's view the page. Here is now our Bento Box wireframe layout. And now you can go ahead and start adding any content that you want and have the confidence that your layout will retain its aspect ratio and nothing's going to break or look strange. Okay, so let's also take a look at it in the Chrome Developer tool to make sure that it really does look good on our mobile devices. So I'm going to right click here, select inspect. All right, so here it is on our mobile device on what may be like a cell phone. Let's look at it on a tablet. Here's what it looks like on tablet. And here's what it will look like on a desktop. Okay. And this is a really, really nice, versatile layout. And now that you've built it, you can go ahead and basically make this page anything that you want, right? So we can always add to this. So if I click on edit page, say I just wanted to add to this here. Okay. Let's open this up here. I'm going to open up the parent container row, the parent container section here. And here where we have this main child container section, let's just go ahead and open that. And I'm going to add before a row block. So click on add before. And now I can add anything I want. So if I want a row layout here, and let's say we keep this to one column, and I'm going to give it maybe 800 pixels on the inner width. Okay, and now I can add a background to this, right? So I can come here, go to style, and let's say the background is going to be an image, and let's find a good image here. And let's say this is say a happy couple, and we'll say we want a black and white photo. All right, so let's pick one that will fill that space really nicely. I like this one. All right, let's go ahead and download that image. Select. Okay, awesome. And then here, we're just going to put some random text here. Maybe we'll say RSVP for our happy day. Align it to the center. Let's change the color of the text. And I'm going to go ahead and make this extra large, and then select the row advanced. Let's increase the padding on top. That's good. Increase the padding on the bottom. That's good. Okay, and let's add a little bit of an overlay. So select the row layout here, go to style, background settings, scroll down, background overlay settings, and we'll add an overlay color. And let's do something dark, and then we can reduce it a little bit here, or we can actually reduce it here. Okay, right, so this is just an idea, but you can just add stuff on top of it. And then we can also add here for our row layout here. Let's go for the row layout, go to advanced. On the bottom, I'm gonna add just a matching gap, extra small. Save, and let's view the page. Okay, so already you can kind of see how you can use this to create a pretty nice layout. And then in here can be all the details, the pictures, the days of the location, or anything like that. But this is pretty nice. Okay, and then if you want your wireframe to have rounded corners, that's very, very easy to do. Just go to edit page, select I'm just click right in the corner of this section here. It's going to select the section for me. Move over to the right, go to style, border styles, and let's add a border radius. So I'm going to unify this, and let's just add a border radius of 8. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that for all of the sections here. And then lastly, I'll do it for my row layout here as well. Border settings, border radius, 8. Okay, let's go ahead and save these settings. View the page, and there we are. Okay, so now you have a nice little wireframe for an RSVP layout or any kind of layout that you want. Okay, so we've learned how to create a Bento Box Grid Layout wireframe from scratch. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to replicate a Bento Box Grid from an existing source. Okay, so let's go to bentogrids.com, and from here we can select any number of Bento Box Grid layouts to replicate. And you can pick ones that are very complex if you like, or you can pick ones that are simple. So I'm going to pick one that's just about in the middle. So I really like this Bento Grid over here. I like it because it has a lot of content, or some content, but it also has images, and I think this looks like something that's supposed to be a video, and then some icons as well. Okay, and it just has just enough misalignment to really present a really nice presentation here. So we're going to go ahead and replicate this one. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so just to get the particulars, we have 3 columns here, and we have 3 containers on top, 3 containers on the bottom. This top middle container is taller than all the other containers, and this one is shorter than all the other containers, creating our Bento Box look. All right, so I have this, I have our assets. Let's go ahead and begin. So I'm going to go back to our site, click on New, select Page for a new page, and we'll call this Replicated Bento. Okay, awesome. And then I'm going to set up my page, go to Page Settings. We're going to say we want this to be full width, remove the page title, content style is unboxed, and the content vertical spacing, we're going to go ahead and disable that. So now our page is ready. I'm going to go ahead and add in my parent container row. So / type the words row, and we'll add that to the page. We're going to go ahead and select that we want a 1 column row. Then I'm going to open this up in list view, and I'm going to rename this parent container row. Save. And then I also know that there is a automatic section that comes with this row. So let's rename that as well. Click on the vertical ellipsis, select rename, and we'll call this parent section or parent container section. All right, now we need one more section, one more overall section to contain everything. Go ahead and click on the plus sign. We're going to select section. So this is an independent section by itself, and we're going to rename this one child container section and save. Okay. So now we are ready to go ahead and add our 3 container sections that's going to contain the containers that will contain the content. Okay. So let's go back, and from here, we're going to click on the plus sign again. I'm going to select that I want a section, and then let's go ahead and duplicate this section 3 times. So duplicate it, and 1 more time. Okay, so now we have our 3 sections, and of course, they're all stacked on top of each other, and that's because the child container section here has the flex settings of going downwards, which is the vertical direction settings. Okay, but before we change all that, let's go ahead and just label our sections now. So the first section here, we're going to go ahead and click on the vertical ellipsis, and I'm going to rename this one to be our left child container section. And then the middle one, we're going to rename this one to be the middle child container section. And then we will name the last one, we'll rename this one last child container section. Okay, so now all of our sections are labeled. I'm going to go up here to the child container section. I'm going to set a vertical gap of small so that there's some spacing between them here. And then I'm going to go ahead and change the flex direction to a horizontal direction. That's going to give me a view of these sections as 3 columns. So now we have our child container sections, and they're all displayed in line, ready for us to go ahead and add our content sections to them. Okay, so next we're going to add our content sections to each section. To do that, let's go ahead and click on the plus sign here, and we're going to select section. So I have a section here, and let's go ahead and duplicate this. So click on the vertical ellipsis, click on duplicate. So now we have 2 sections in here. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other section columns here. So the middle section, we're going to go ahead and add some sections there. Okay. So to make this easy, I'm just going to select the section from the left child container section, hold down the shift key, select the second section. Then from the vertical ellipsis, I'm going to select copy. Then we're going to click inside of the middle child container section, add a paragraph block, and then press Command V or Control V if you're using a Mac, and then repeat that for the last child container section. Okay, so now we have all our containers inside of our different sections. Now it's just a matter of styling those containers and then adding our content. Okay, so now that we have our structure in place, let's just go ahead and save our work. I'm going to click on Publish here, okay, and now the work's saved. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and add some color to our content sections here so we can better see what we're doing as we're populating the content. So I'm going to move over to the left here under the left child container section. I'm going to select the first section, hold down my Shift key, and select the second section. And then from here, I'm going to move over to the right with both blocks selected. I'm going to go to the Style tab, and under the background color, we're just going to add a subtle background. Then I'm going to add some padding. So click on the Advanced tab. I'm going to unify the padding fields here, and we're just going to increase this to a small padding. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and copy this styling by going to the short menu here, and I'm going to click on the Copy Paste Styles icon, select Copy Styles, and then I'm going to move down to the middle child container section and select both sections again. So clicking on the first one, holding down the Shift key, and clicking on the second one. And then I'm going to move over here to the short menu, click on the Copy Paste Styles icon, and select Paste Styles. Okay, that's going to go ahead and transfer those styles over to those sections. And then we'll repeat that for the last child container section. Excellent. Okay, so now our sections have some styling to them and we can clearly see them. The other thing that I also want to do is I want to create some separation between the sections. So to do that, let's go to the left child container, move over to the right. We'll add a vertical gap of small, and then we'll repeat that on the middle child container. And you can even hold on the Shift key, select the last child container, move over to the right, go to the general settings, and click on the vertical gap here. All right, so now our container sections are clearly separated. We can see each section. We can now proceed to go ahead and add our content to each section. Before we start adding our content, to keep everything organized, let's go ahead and label our sections. So under each section, or under each main child container section, so we have left, middle, and last, we have these additional sections that will contain the content. So we're just going to rename these. So I'm going to select the first section under the left child container section, click on the vertical ellipsis, go to rename, and we're going to call this one left top content section, and we'll save that. And then I'll go to the one below it and click on the vertical ellipsis, go to rename, and we'll still say left, but this time bottom content section. And then I'll do the same thing for the middle child container, rename, and this time this will be middle top content section, and select the second one, click on the vertical ellipsis, click on rename, and this will be middle bottom content section. And then for the final one, which is the last child container section, we'll select the section, click on the vertical ellipsis, select rename, right? And we'll call this our last top content section, and then select the second section in that column, click on the vertical ellipsis, rename, and we'll change this to last bottom content section. So then let's look at our source again. So this is at Bento Grids, and this is our source. And we can actually start applying some of the more subtle design elements here. So we have these nice rounded corners over here for each section. So let's just go ahead and add that. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to select my content section. So I'll select the first two under the left child container section. Select the first two, move over to the right, go to the Style tab, scroll down. And here where we have border styles right under the background overlay, we're going to go ahead and unify the border radius, and we'll give it a border radius of 12. Okay, so that's going to give us some rounded corners here. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on the Copy Paste Styles icon in the short menu, click on Copy Styles, and then I'm going to move through the other sections and go ahead and apply those styles. So I'm going to select the first one under the middle child container section, hold down the Shift key, select the second one. Then in the short menu that appears, click on the Copy Paste Styles icon, and then paste that style, and then repeat that for the last child container sections. So now all our styling is applied to the content sections, and now we can go ahead and start adding our actual content. Okay, so let's remind ourselves what we're creating here and take a look at our layout again, just to make sure that we have all the subtle design changes in place. So one of the things I'm noticing is that there's a very subtle border here, and then there's some padding between the internal containers and the parent container here, and it has this rounded corner as well. So we definitely want to add that to our own design. And then I also noticed that the flex settings are already in place, so we want to have the same kind of behavior when we're adding our own content as well. So let's just go ahead and apply that to our layout now. So I'm going to go back to our editor here, and I'm going to select the parent container row. And the thing that I want to do here is I want to go ahead and set an inner content width for this. So in the short menu here, I'm going to click on the inner content width icon. And here where it says custom content max width, let's just set that to 1240 pixels. All right, so that should give us a nice centered layout here. And then the other thing that I want to do here as well is I want to select the parent container section, right? So this is the actual section that belongs to this parent container row. I'm going to select the parent container section, move over to the right, go to advanced, and I'm going to go ahead and unify the padding corners here. And we're going to set this to a small padding. And then I want to select that parent container section again, because now I want to go ahead and apply the 1 pixel solid border that we saw that was right here very subtly in this design. So let's go back here, select the parent container section, go to style under the style tab, and then we're going to scroll down and we're going to add a 1 pixel border under the border styles, and then select the color selector, and we just want a very subtle color. So let's do this subtle text color, and I already know that's going to be pretty dark, so I'm just going to go ahead and reduce the opacity here to about 30%. Okay, and now let's take a look at it. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. You can see it, and it looks great. Then the next thing that I want to do here is I want to apply all my flexbox layout settings to all the container sections, so that as we're adding our content, the containers are adjusting accordingly. So first, we're going to go to the child container section, and I'm going to move over here to the right to the settings for it. And here under the vertical alignment, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this vertical alignment is set to stretch. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the list view here, and I'm going to select the child container section. Okay, and the child container section, what I want to do here is I want to make sure that the flex grow properties have already been set to a value of 1. Okay, so I'm going to move over to the right, go to advanced with the section selected, and then under the structure settings, here where it says flex grow, we're going to add a value of 1. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that for all the container sections. So the middle child container section and the last child container section. And I can actually select these at once. Select the middle child container section, hold down the shift key, select the last child, then move over to the right, go to advanced, and set the flex grow value to 1. Okay. Now I also need to set the flex grow value of the inside content sections within each one of these child container sections. So I'm going to start with the left child container section. I'm going to select the left top content section, hold down the shift key, select the left bottom content section, move over to the right, go to advanced. Under structure settings, I want to select the flex grow setting here, and I'm going to add a value of 1. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that for the middle child and the last child container sections, both of the sections within those columns. So select the middle child, hold on the shift key, select the middle bottom, move over to the right, go to advanced. Under the structure settings, we're going to go ahead and add a value of 1, and then repeat that for the last child container sections. Under the structure settings, flex grow value of 1. Okay, so now our sections are all set up. They all have their flexbox layout settings in place. We are now ready to start adding our content. Okay, I've gathered all my assets, and what I'm going to do now is go ahead and start adding the content to the containers. So let's look at our source again, and let's look at this first one. So this says under 249 G, and there's a 1 superscript here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my layout, click on the plus sign. I'm going to select the text block from Kadence. Let's go ahead and center this text block, and we're just going to repeat the same information under 249G, and then there was a superscript 1. To create a superscript in your text here in the Kadence block, just go ahead and highlight the 1 here, and then in the short menu, in the arrow where it says more, there's a little arrow right here, click on it, and we're going to select superscript, and that's going to give us the same thing as this one. Okay, then what we want to do here is we want to adjust our typography a little bit so it just matches a little bit. It's not going to be the same font, but we can adjust a little bit. So here it's really thick, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, move over to the right to the settings for the text block, go to advanced typography settings, go to font weight, and let's just set this to medium 500. Okay, so that looks a lot better. Then to maintain the same styling and everything that we have here for the rest of the headings or the rest of the text inside of each of the containers, I'm just going to copy this text and paste it into all the other containers and then make the adjustments to what the specific text is. Okay, so I'm going to select the text block here. Then in the short menu, click on the vertical ellipsis, click on copy, move to the next section here, click on the plus sign, select paragraph, the paragraph block, and then do a Command V or Control V if you're using a PC, and then just repeat that for all the sections. Okay, and then next I'm going to go ahead and add the specific text for each one. Okay, so now we've added all of our text. Now let's go ahead and add our icons. To do that, place your cursor at the end of the text block and then hit the Enter key. You're going to get a new block line. We're going to do a / and we're looking for the icon block. So select the icon block from Kadence Blocks, and we'll now have our icon. Okay, now I'm going to go over here to the right hand side, and if we look at this icon, it's really in a little small arrow with a background here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my layout, and we're going to reduce the size of this. So let's reduce the size here to about 20, maybe 15 to start. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to change this icon to an arrow or a caret. So actually, let's do a search for a caret. It looks more like a caret here. The icon style is set to default. Let's change that to stacked. That way we can get the background settings here. So now that we have it at stacked, we now have the icon color. Let's set the color to our darkest color, and we'll set the hover color to be the same. And then our background color is going to be white, and we'll set the hover here. We'll just make it a subtle change. And then for the border color, let's just set that to white as well. And the hover will be also a subtle change. And then here we have a border going around that. We can just leave that in place. That's fine. But the border radius, we're going to set the border radius to be a full round. So just do 100%. Okay, and that's going to give us this nice little circle. All right. If we look here, our icon is floated to the right over here. So I'm going to go back to my layout, select the icon container, right? So that's the icon container right here. And what I want to do is I want to set the alignment to justify all the items to the right. Okay, so now I have my icon in place exactly where I want it. Okay, so I'm going to now select the icon container again, and then I'm going to click on the vertical ellipsis, select copy, and then just add it to every single section that we have here. So just go ahead and place your cursor at the end of the text, hit the Enter key, and then Command V or Control V if you're using a PC, and just repeat that for every container section. Excellent. So now all our icons have been added. The next thing that we need to do now is go ahead and add our background images to the container sections, and we will be pretty much done with the replication of this Bento layout box. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and add the background images to each section. Okay, so we're going to pull each one of these images and then go ahead and add it to each section, section by section. We'll start with the first section. So I'm going to go ahead and select the section. You can do that by clicking in the very corner of the section here, or you can also do it in the list view. And then over here on the right in the settings for the section, go to the Style tab, and then you'll see the background settings. And we want the background image. We're going to go ahead and click on Select Image, and we'll add the corresponding image. I've already uploaded my assets, so they're all in the media library, and it just makes it very easy for me to go ahead and add these to each section. So let's go ahead and add the second one. Select the section, go to Style, select the image. Until we have all the images added. Okay, let's just check. All right, all the images are corresponding. Okay. Now this one right here, this is actually a video. So let's go ahead and add a video to this section. To do that, we're gonna have to do something a little bit different. So let's go back to our layout here. So we have all these images as background images, but in here, we're going to need a background video. Now in a section block in Kadence, you don't have the option for video in your background settings here, but in the row layout block, you do have an option for video. So to do that, we just simply need to add a row layout block in here, which is going to come with the section block, and then we'll assign that section block flexbox layout settings, and then we'll have everything be the same except this last section here is going to be a video instead of an image. Okay, so to do that, just go ahead and select the heading, and then we'll click in the vertical ellipsis here, and we're going to click on Add Before. That's going to add a new block line right above, and we can just do a /, and if you start spelling the words row, you will see the row layout block from Kadence right here. Go ahead and select, and we want a 1-column row. Now, once you select the row layout block and add it into the section, we want to go ahead and zero out any padding that's in here, right? So I'm going to select it, move over to the right to its settings, go to the Advanced tab, and we're going to unify the padding sides, and then we're going to go ahead and just turn that to 0. Now here in list view, we can see where the row layout block is. All right, now there's a couple things that we need to do here. If you open up the row layout block, you'll see here that there is a section. So we definitely want the section to be utilizing the flexbox layout settings that the outer section here has. And then we can remove the padding from this one and just have this one replicated, but with the benefit of the row layout container. Okay, so let's go ahead and zero out the padding on the last bottom content section here. So I'm going to select it, move over to the right, go to Advanced, and I'm going to go ahead and link all the sides, and we're going to remove that padding. Then I'm going to select a section on the inside of the row layout block inside of the last bottom content section. Move over to the right, go to Advanced, select the padding, and we'll add a small padding to this one. Okay. Then the other thing that I also want to do for this section is I want, under the structure settings, I want to assign it a flex grow value of 1. Then the other thing that we need to do is actually add the video. So select the row layout block, move over to the right. Under Style, you'll see the background settings, and under the background type, the last option here is for a video. Okay. Now I've already uploaded the video, so just click on Select Video. We'll add this video here, and now the video is there in the background. Then the next thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and add the title, right? The heading title here and the icon inside of the section, inside of the row layout block. So right now it's hanging out here outside of everything. So we want to make sure that it's inside. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go over here to the row layout block, go to Advanced. Under the structure settings for that row layout, I also want to make sure that the inner column height is set at 100%. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and move the Active Shots 360 title and the icon into that row layout, which will be inside of the section of the row layout. Okay, to do that, it's very easy. Just select the heading, hold down your Shift key, and then click to select the icon. And then in the short menu that shows up, here's the drag icon here. Just go ahead and drag it and drop it inside of that section. And now it is inside the section. The next thing that we want to do is make sure that the heading here is visible. So to do that, it's very easy. We can just go to the row layout, select the row layout, move over to the right, go to your style settings, scroll all the way down, text color settings, and we will change the text color to white. So now we can see the heading, now we can see the icon, and everything is placed nice and neat inside of the section row. Now we do need to make an additional tweak to this section row here because we've lost our rounded corners here. So I'm going to select the row layout again, move over to the right. Under the style, I'm looking for the border radius settings, which is at the bottom. Click on border settings. Here's the border radius. I'm going to go ahead and unify the corners, and I want the border radius to be 12 pixels. So it matches that section there. So far, everything looks pretty good. We have our video in here and our images in all of the content sections. Okay. And so far, everything looks correct. Now, the one thing that we do need to do, though, is if you look here at our layout, you can see here that there are different heights for the container sections, or at least there's a different height for this middle one and this one here at the bottom. These ones appear to have the same height here. Okay, so let's go ahead and start adding the heights to each of our container sections. So I'm going to go back to my Bento Box layout here, and I'm going to select the first section. I'm going to move over to the right, go to Advanced, Structure Settings, and we can see here that we have a minimum height value option. Okay, I'm going to change this to the VH or view height here instead of using pixels, and we'll just use the same one for all of them with the exception of these two. Okay, so this will be 36 view height here. Okay, so that looks about right. And then we'll do the same thing for the bottom section here. Give it a view height of 36. Make sure it's on. Make sure we change the unit to VH, and then the corners here, the last one here. Advanced Structure Settings. Change the unit to VH, and we'll say 36. Okay, and then in this case here, we're going to make sure we're selecting that row layout, and we have the section on the inside of that row layout, right? So we want this section here, not the row layout itself, but the section. And then we're going to go to the right, Advanced, and we're going to set a minimum height here, change the unit to VH of 36. Okay, so now all these have the same height. Now, these ones are a little bit different, right? So these are a little taller. This one is a little taller. If we look here at the source, this one's tall, and then this one's short. Okay, so we want to make sure that the height here is going to be taller, and the height here is going to be shorter. So I'm going to select this here, and I'm going to make this about 6 points taller on the view height. Okay, so I'm going to select the section, move over to the right, go to Advanced Structure Settings. I'm looking for the minimum height. I'm going to change the unit to the view height here, and we're going to make this 42. Okay, and then I'll do a shorter version here in reverse. So these are all 36. I'll make this one 30. So I'm going to select the section, move over to the right, go to Advanced Structure Settings, minimum height, change the unit to view height, and we'll make this 30 view height. And as you can see, we now have almost an exact replica of the source file here. Now, before we finish, if you look at the source here, you can see here that there's some spacing between the title and the icon. Okay, so the icon is all the way at the bottom and the title is at the top. Okay, so we want to have that same layout, okay, or at least close to it. So I'm going to go back to my layout. Mine are all kind of aligned to the top here. So I want to change that. That's very easy to do. So I'm going to select the section, and we're going to move over here to the right under the settings for that section. And we're looking for the vertical alignment of our content here. And the option that we want is actually the space between option. So we're going to go ahead and select that one, and that's going to go ahead and push that icon down to the bottom and leave the heading all the way at the top. And then we're just going to repeat that for all of the containers. So I'm going to select the next section, vertical alignment under the general settings, space between. So now we have an exact replica of the Bento Box Grid Layout here from bentogrid.com. Let's go ahead and save our work and look at it on the front end. So I'm going to click on Save, and let's view the page, and there you have it. Okay, we can see each container with the icons, with the content inside, and this one's even a video. And the video is playing beautifully and aligned wonderfully with all the other containers. So we've successfully replicated this Bento Box Grid layout from this source right here at bentogrids.com, and we've used Kadence, Kadence blocks, the Kadence row layout block, and the Kadence section block to create this. There is one more thing that we need to do to make sure that this is a legitimate Bento Box Grid layout, and that's to make sure that our layout is mobile responsive and looks great on a tablet or on a cell phone. Okay, so to check this, let's go ahead and take a look at it in the Chrome Developer tool. So just right click in the browser here and select inspect, and it'll turn on the Chrome Developer tool for you, and you'll be in this responsive mode here. Now if you're not seeing this, then you need to turn it on. So make sure that this icon right here, just select this icon and it'll put you into this mode here. All right, next what we need to do is we need to go ahead and start to simulate what this will look like on a tablet. So if we bring this closer, okay, this is about what a tablet width is. You notice that it's not responding responsively. And if we keep going to about the size of a cell phone, it's not responding at all. Okay, so this is something that we're going to have to set up to make sure that our Bento Box Grid layout is also mobile responsive. Okay, to do that, just click on Edit Page. Okay, and then what we want to do is open up List View. You're going to see your parent container row. Let's open that up, and then we'll see our parent container section. Let's also open that, and then we'll see our child container section. And if you remember, our child container section actually is dictating the direction of the sections within it, the main sections within it that contains the content. And if we look over here to the settings, you'll see that the direction is a horizontal direction. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and select tablet view. You can do that by clicking on this icon here and selecting the tablet view. You can also do that from within the settings themselves. Just select any one of the icons that matches a tablet here. Okay, so now we can see what it looks like in tablet view. And now we're looking at the tablet settings. So the tablet view settings is what we're looking at here. These are the desktop settings. These will be the tablet settings. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to look for the flex basis setting. So flex basis is basically a setting in the flexbox layout that allows you to set the minimum width of each element inside of the container. Okay, so right now we want to set this up to be a minimum width that's going to allow this to expand and wrap that third column around while filling up all the extra spaces. To do that, a tablet is roughly about 749 pixels in width. So let's just estimate at about 300 pixels. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add in 300 pixels as a flex basis. Now, when I did that, it's now saying, hey, the minimum width we're going to allow for the sections inside here is 300 pixels, each one. So this is 300 pixels. This is now 300 pixels. However, it's not enough space to allow for a third column. So that third column is going to automatically wrap downwards to the bottom here and fill up the space. Okay. And that is literally all we need to do. If we look at this from the mobile phone setting, so if we select this icon here, or if you come up here and you select the mobile setting, you'll now see that everything is aligned nicely in a vertical format. Okay, let's go ahead and save the work and view the page. Now remember, we literally changed one thing, and now let's test and see if our Bento Box Grid layout is mobile responsive. I'm going to go ahead and right click in the browser, select inspect. It's going to turn on the Chrome Developer tool for me, and then I'm going to go ahead and simulate a tablet here. So let's just bring this closer, and we can see now we still have somewhat of a bento box going here, right? And all our content is clearly visible and easy to engage with. And then if we keep going, here we are on a very large mobile phone. Okay, and for a regular phone here, we can see that all the content is visible. Everything looks great, and even our video is still playing. All right, so now our Bento Box Grid layout is complete and looks good on all devices. And with that, that will conclude this tutorial on how to create Bento Box Grid layouts in Kadence using the Kadence Blocks row layout block and the section block. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I enjoyed making it. Thank you very much for watching, and I also want to thank you for your support. Hey, if you really like this video, then go ahead and like the video, comment on the video. Feel free to ask questions in the comment section. I do read questions and I do answer them as well. And also, if you are not a subscriber to the channel and you will like videos like this and you like to get notified when I release more, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also press the notification bell so that you can be notified every time I release a new video. And for those of you that are subscribed, thank you very much for subscribing. I really appreciate your support. And once again, everyone, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you found a lot of value in it, and I will see you in the next video.